And I went back to my farm. I said, listen, the Americans say, yeah, we're liberated. I'm going back home. He says, you can't. You got the crops to bring in. I don't know, potatoes or whatever. I said, I don't care about your crops. I'm going home. Next morning, my bike hit a flat. So I had to fix my flat, and I went to that little town of Chimay near the French border. And there the Americans came through in force, tanks and motorcycles and trucks. I left my bike there. I guess it's still there. And I hiked the ride on a truck to go back to Brussels. The American army went towards Bastogne, but I got out in Charleroi and took another hike. Brussels had been liberated the day before. People were dancing and chanting in the streets. All the girls were kissing the soldiers. I wasn't a soldier. Forget it. And that's how I got liberated. Not because I was smarter, because I was luckier, really. But eventually we found out some people came back from the camps. We believed that our parents would come back because what they did, they threw some letters and postcards from the train saying we are only going to a labor camp in Holland and we'll be back soon. Slowly some youngsters came back that survived the camps, and we found out only then about the massacre that happened in the camps. And we realized that my parents would not come home. The Belgian government gave me a certificate, estimate that my parents that went with the transport number 22 to Auschwitz survived the arrival in Auschwitz by about an hour. When they arrived in Auschwitz, the dogs were barking, the guards were yelling, "Raus, raus, fast, hurry up." They would separate the woman from the man. They would send the man in and into an ante-room where they said, remember the number of the hook on which you put your clothes. And then they hoarded them into what was called the shower room. Of course, instead of water, gas came out of the faucets, and that took 15 minutes. Then you had a crew of prisoners empty the room, and then it was the turn of the woman. It went an hour, 2 hours, and everybody was dead. That's how Auschwitz worked. In the later days, my parents were arrested in '43, just 1 year before liberation. At the beginning, when they needed workers to build the barracks and build all kinds, so you had a chance to survive. But once the camps were full, the newly arrived people, very few survived. Youngsters could survive, but even though my mother was only 38 years old, she had white hair, and after spending about a week in a cattle car, without food or drink or facilities, you didn't look too good. So they did not survive. My mother died in Auschwitz at the age of 38. One day I got a phone call, or probably a letter from the Allied High Command saying that they had some news from our relatives. Now, I didn't know what that was, of course. We figured somebody survived. And I went down, and they gave me an envelope with my mother's earrings and my dad's watch. I still have those. And said that somehow the Germans, before sending people off into the gas chambers, collected all their jewelries and very carefully recorded who that jewelry belonged to. And the Allies had found a whole railroad car full of jewelry, and they now distributed those mementos to, if they could find any relatives alive. It was really strange to obtain my dad's watch and my mother's earrings after after such a long time. Besides my parents, I had lost my grandmother, some uncles and aunts, some nieces, and most of my family was gone with the exception of my sister, who survived in the convent school. I have never been bitter. I've never been hateful. You cannot live for 50, 60 years with hate in your heart. You can't live a normal life. And if you ask my son, there was never any hate expressed against the Germans. Things have not improved very much. The world still does not seem to be able to get along with different people. And that's why I'm talking to the kids about tolerance and respect for people that are different. And somehow it makes sense to some of them.
The fact that you met somebody who was in such a bad situation in which you wouldn't be able to believe. I mean, 6 million Jews died in that whole thing, and he was in the middle of it. And the fact that he's still here, and he's still talking, and he's learned from it, and he wants to tell people, kind of tells me of what I want to do with, like, my brother. I want to be able to, like, expand upon the United States to stop the racism of blackness in the United States, just like he wants to stop everything else. And I thank him very much.
Did you watch this, Hannah?
Yes, I did.
And I get hundreds of letters complimenting me about bringing this story to their attention.
It definitely opened my eyes because I never thought of it like that before.
If all the human beings would be exactly the same, it would kind of be boring. We have, of course, we know different skin colors, and we have different religions in this world. And the message that I would leave with you young people is tolerance and respect for whoever is different. I thank you very much for listening to us. And that's really the message we give to the children. We've lived longer in Canada than anywhere else. And by now, our 3 kids have multiplied into 6 grandchildren and 4.5 great-grandchildren. And we really never looked back.
You left your native Vienna so many years ago. Still the sound of a lively waltz sets your heart aglow. So to keep it beating for